All right, so a very special edition of the No Doubt About It podcast. I know what you're thinking. Where's Christy? Oh, she's here.
I'm here,
she's
everybody.
Here. She is here, but she's gone through a procedure, and because of that, she cannot be on camera. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds really disturbing the way you said that.
Yeah.
I just had some microneedling done on my face.
Yeah.
I can't wear makeup, and my face is bright red.
Okay.
So there's no reason to scare the audience.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point.
With my face.
Yeah, no, that's a good
you're
point.
welcome. And plus, Jay's on here, and when Jay's on here, you two battle it out with the microphones anyway. So
that's a good point. Yeah, no, it is good.
I take incoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course you take incoming. It's EJ.
Actually, Jay McCleskey, political consultant with us, going to talk about the races and everything else going on. But also, we're going to talk about a new YouTube channel that Jay has called Breaking Body Cams. And if you haven't seen it, it's great video of basically various ne'er-do-wells ending up tangling it up with police, and some of it's in New Mexico, some of it is not, but it is catching on. We want to show some of the videos you have posted, let people know where they can find them, because too often these videos, they get buried by the media. The media will bury them. You know, you've seen it a million times. I know it's frustrating to you.
We've talked about it on the show.
Yeah, it's frustrating to you. You see this stuff and nobody covers it, and you're starting to see stuff really take off.
Right.
That's cool.
That's exciting.
Right. Yeah, no, we'll do it. We'll go through all that, but we want to start first with politics. Just talking off the cuff here about what's going on with the races in New Mexico and across the country here. First off, let's talk about the fact that if there's a governor's race and it happens and it doesn't make a sound, or you're in the woods and something falls and they don't hear it, or is there a real race? Like, what's going on with this thing? I'm hearing nothing on the governor's race.
I was, last time I was on, we were talking about like what he needs to do coming out of the primary, the concern about if Deb Haaland, with all the money, goes and immediately attacks him and defines him. What I neglected to say is the actually worse scenario than that is nothing happens.
Right.
And that's because they're probably looking at data and think everything's okay.
Yeah.
And so it would make me nervous in the whole campaign. Now, the flip side of that is, hey, the shorter he makes this campaign, the better it is for him.
Yeah.
You know, like when I've ever been in campaigns, we've had more money than an opponent. You kind of want to drag it out. You kind of want to drag him into the deep water and make him have to spend and make it a longer campaign. Holland, I think she feels very confident, so she's not doing anything right now. But I think that can help hold because it plays in, it makes it a shorter campaign.
Yeah,
where you can actually compete.
I agree, and that's one thing we told Greg when he was on the show last week. I said the fact that she hasn't attacked you yet is not a positive necessarily. It could actually be the worst of all scenarios. However, you're right. I think that we've talked about the fundraising issues and things like that. That if Greg can get some momentum, and then you talk about a 6-week race, because that's what we're going to get into, really, because once early voting starts, right? I mean, we got another few weeks. I'm shocked she hasn't come out and started to at least do some positive on her own.
Because I think she's weaker electorally than people think.
Right.
And by no means am I saying, well, she's a weak candidate can be, but I think she's weaker electorally than people think because they see the finance kind of insider stuff, and it is. It matters, obviously. She's done a great job and is really strong in that sense and building an operation, doing what she did in a primary, but those are different voters.
Right,
and I don't think electorally she's necessarily as strong. And so I'd be doing more, at least defining her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think what's interesting to me, and I think this is a positive, and I know things have changed. We talked about like even voter number, registration numbers have changed in the last,
getting better.
Getting better. Where it was what the Democrats had a 15-point advantage when Mark ran. Now there's a 9-point advantage. That's a significant drop off. That doesn't mean they're all jumping, obviously, to the Republican ship, but it does mean that we're seeing more independent and Republican voters out there. What I think is encouraging for Hall is how much positive comments I see on social media. And I know that you guys both are like, on social media. Like you two are like the guys that are like, yeah, social media is great, but it is
not real.
It's not real. And I understand that it's not real. I totally get that.
Right.
But I also do think that, like, of course, I compare it to when you ran, Mark.
Sure.
And I would say very fairly, you took a ton of shots on social, a ton. And I mean, just to the degree that we created mean tweets with Ella.
We had a whole segment because they all hated me so much.
So to like make fun of it because it was aggressive. I mean, it was really aggressive. I'm not seeing that with Greg. Now, maybe they're deleting everything. I don't know. I'm obviously not a hawk on his stuff either, like I was with Mark. But do you guys not think that all the positivity that you're seeing. I mean, even a news clip on him, the comments are real positive, and that was not the case when you ran Mark. So I'm just curious.
Yeah, so let me just set the table for you to answer this. So is this a situation right now? When we did polling, even when Nicole did some polling for us, one of the things you found with Hull was that the people who knew him liked him. Nobody knew him. And so at least not in a big way. In a way, is Greg's kind of under the radar campaign to this point a little more so than a normal campaign? Is that somewhat responsible for some of what we're seeing?
Right. And I think it is. And I think the people who, if you did polling right now and you looked at his name ID, you'd see that mostly the people who know more about him are Republicans.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't think the Democrats necessarily see him as a threat yet, and they don't know much about him. And so they're just not as engaged. And it also depends on where you're seeing it on social media. You know, like in conservative type outlets or conservative channels, you're going to get more positive comments from him. It's just the question's going to be is once it really gets going, once Haaland starts airing ads about him, which is going to happen at some point. How well can he weather that? Like he has positive, I think he's got a positive image right now. Yeah. And it's the question of how hard is that image?
And what does she have to think about in going after him in the respect that when you go negative on someone and you go first, if, for example, I know that they could use an IE to go after him, right? They could use an independent group, not Deb's actual campaign, somebody who supports him that she doesn't have direct contact with. They could unload on him. But most voters don't know the difference, right? Most voters see the negative ad and they go, Haaland's going negative. Does she take a risk there in taking on some water by going negative? And does she weigh that out versus, okay, yeah, I may shed a few votes because of this, but I'm going to bury him with it?
Well, I don't think they care about that. I think you got to play it backwards. She wants to win by enough to have a mandate. Yeah. Because honestly, if she won, this race is even close. Like, forget about him beating her. Yeah. That is not good for her going into the legislative session. Yeah. And the longer he's around, the more chance he has to win this. Yep. You know. But I think what they proved and what you saw in the primary is they're going to be very data driven. So they're polling, they're watching this, or watching images, and they're going to make decision. Okay, if we have to bury him to get that win that we want, we're going to do it. If we don't have to do that, then we're going to do it a different way. Yeah. So I think they're going to be a very data-driven campaign in that sense. I just think for Greg, it helps him because it shortens the race.
Yeah, no question.
If he's dead in June, you know, it's over. But by just, you know, they don't think he can beat her, and that's what you want if you're the challenger. You kind of like, all right. Yeah, let me stay here a little bit because you get that shot, like you're saying, that 6-week campaign where you try to pull it off. Yeah.
So you guys think, so what you're saying is, because I just remember, obviously, I was paying a lot of attention during Mark's race. So I was much more like aware of everything, every mention, everything, right? Because I was tracking literally everything that came out about Mark. I just don't feel there's any buzz. I don't see signs. I know you don't believe in signs. I know that you're like,
yard signs are good.
Okay, yard sign now. Okay, yard signs are okay now. But I just don't see any momentum on either side. It's the quietest race. And so you think that's okay? Like, that's all right?
I think that's okay for Greg because he doesn't have the money to make it a long race. If you go back, every governor's race I've been involved with, yours, Susanna's, both times, June was a absolute bloodbath. Yeah, it was both sides are at war. Yep. You're spending a ton of money on TV, and then the 4th of July kind of came, and everyone slowed down a little bit. You rearmed, and you kind of went through July, and then August started back up, and it was heavy. But June was really heavy, and the race kind of got defined, and so the bases of both parties were home by then. So in Mark's case, the Democrat base was home, and you were, you know, seeing them on social media in their comments. And by not having that this time, it's different. It's quiet. And honestly, you know, it would make me nervous. And Grace is like, what are they seeing that they don't, you know, think they can do? But can't win a long race. Yeah. Either. So this is better in the sense that he can win a short race.
Yeah. And I think anytime you're talking about a race where you're not raising a tremendous amount of money, I think you're exactly right. There are going to be trade-offs, right? You're like, I can't tell if we are on the precipice of a shocking, victory, or we're going to get boat raced out of the building. It may be one or the other, right? It may be that Greg could, if things work out exactly the right way, raises just enough money to really push hard for the last month. You get some of those voters who are like, I don't know about Haaland. A lot of those Bregman voters kind of say, well, I don't know about Haaland and all this. And all of a sudden, Greg gets enough to push him over the top, shocks the world. and does a great job, he's got that puncher's chance? Or is it one of these deals where you're like, okay, these guys aren't stupid. If they're quietly tiptoeing through, they realize they're up 7-8 points. And they think once they push Haaland's positives up a little bit more, once they attack him a little bit, they'll be up 10-12, and this will be, at the end of the day, not a close race.
Well, and you can look at over 2 months. You say you're on TV at 500 points a week, okay, or something. So you're on TV for 2 months, and that's at 4,000 points. Or you can do it in 3 weeks and put, you know what I mean, put 4,000 points in 3 weeks. So they can say, you guys can make it long all you want. Like, we can get the same amount of message through whenever we pull the trigger.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So where do you think this goes in the next, we're in the middle of August. Tell me what you think things look like by early September.
Well, I think what's going to be telling is the first kind of advertising that both sides do, and where the race kind of goes from there. Any debates, anything like that, like those kind of things that start shifting. What shifts voters to really at a basic level is just new information. And Greg has the opportunity, because a lot of people don't know a lot about him, so he can grow quite a bit when they just get new information about him. And that's going to happen from the first ads he does. It could be through ads she does about him or an IE does about him. Same thing with her. So like that first exchange is going to kind of put in stone kind of where everything is, and then it gets more difficult to move from there.
I think I would be losing my mind if this was if this is how it was in your race. To not really know where you're standing, wouldn't that just drive you guys crazy?
Yeah, but if you're polling right, because if you're doing, you can do different testing and polling called a descriptive ballot and different things where if you test it right, you kind of know, all right, this is where
you know where you are.
Go.
If you do real polling that is really valuable because you're spending a lot of money on it, then you do know.
But what I'm saying, guys, is like we did spend the money. We did know where you stood pretty much all the time. I don't think that Hull's probably doing that because of lack of money.
Well, they released them.
Well, yeah, but
they did.
I was part of that poll, and at that poll, I would have killed you, Mark. You would have never done a poll like that. So,
well, it's the informed ballot.
The informed ballot's one thing. It's like, but you can do the initial ballot, a descriptive ballot, which is balanced, just 2 lines or 3 lines.
This was not balanced,
right? And that'll tell the descriptive ballot kind of gives you, okay, this is where this thing will go,
right?
And then you do the informed, but you need to mix in more negatives about your candidate and pauses
so
about the other, so you get
idea.
a little better sense of
the poll. To me, the reason that I always felt like you did a poll was we really wanted to know where we were landing.
Right.
Like, where are we in this race? You had to pull Michelle's positives. You had to pull your negatives just to make sure we knew.
And you had to find a path. I mean, that's the other reason to do the poll is figuring out
where
the path.
you hit her. You got to know where to hit her.
With Greg right now, like they don't. If you're not going up on advertising, you kind of wait for polling to me because you're going to message test things and you don't want everything to change in 4 weeks. And all of a sudden you have your ads ready, but it's been 4 or 6 weeks and everything's kind of changed.
And that's hard because and that is the problem. So I know a lot of people listen to this show think, oh my gosh, polling's not that big. Polling's always wrong. That's not true. Good polling is incredibly helpful. Now, it doesn't mean it's always right or right on the number, but it does tell you broadly where you are in a race. It helps you. There's no question. And the disadvantage for Greg is if you don't know where you are in the race, it's very hard to craft a message.
Right.
So in other words, you're crafting a message like, I'm just going to do my thing, and you just walk forward. And that's okay. You can run a race that way. It's just that it definitely helps you to fine-tune your message to say, look, you look at Haaland, she's soft in the belly on this. Hit her on it. But you don't know if she's soft in the belly on that if you don't poll it and don't have an idea where voters go, oh, I didn't. You talk about voters getting new information. That's what a poll does. You introduce some new information to them and say, what do you think of this piece of new information? And they go, oh, my gosh, that's horrible. Then you're like, thank you. And then that's what you go
test
after.
on yourself and you say, okay, we need to put some armor over here.
Because
we're
weak. We're weak here. Yeah. What do we have here? And that always helped us as well. So
I think it would also, to me, I would just think that would help if he knew exactly where to hit her or what messaging he wanted to make sure he was the strongest in. I think it would be momentum building as far as fundraising goes. Am I wrong about that? Because I think if you know she's weak in this, I'm strong in this, and I'm going to go after that. I mean, yes, we kind of all sit here on the table and can guess what those message points should be, and I'm sure that's what his team is doing. But I think if you really know, I tested this, I know this is what's going on, you don't think it matters?
No, that won't matter to me. I think what will matter is if we can see a poll to come out from somebody independent of the campaigns in the middle of September that shows Greg within striking distance, I think that will supercharge. That'll supercharge his fundraising.
And you can criticize their polling or whatever, but like the end of the day, they're using their poll to raise money.
Heck yeah.
And guess what? So is she.
Yeah.
Right.
So
All
one
right,
more
check
thing
it
on
out.
that, on her thing that we talked about, that what she's gone after, and it's a bit of a unique move and one that only she could do, which is that she's gone after a massive fundraising base of small dollar donors. She's really done a good job of that. That's right. You got to give that to her. They've spent a tremendous amount of money to do it. Right. But so tell me what you think if you're looking at her campaign and you see numbers come in. We're going to start getting monthly numbers out of this situation now. What do you think is a good number for her each month going forward to the end of the race?
I'm not even going to get it. It's going to be, I think she can turn it up as much as she wants.
You do?
I really do. I think she can turn it up as much as she wants. They've built that. Like, obviously, there's overhead with that.
Right.
But she can turn that up. And they're really, you saw they took Greg's poll and used it to
Of course. I mean, it's funny. We talked about that in one of the last shows saying, Opinion Post said, oh, my gosh, she's scared. She's not scared. They're absolutely using that as a rhetorical device to scare her donors.
Right.
So that grandma in Wichita, Kansas, who's deep blue grandma, she's going to give the $20. Right? Because Deb could lose. We got to do this. And then Deb's going, bring it all in right here.
Right. So I think she's going to have whatever she needs. The question is, Greg needs to have what he needs in order to run that 6-week campaign. That's really the question. She's going to outspend him, and she can do whatever she wants. He just has to be able to communicate his message. And it's not, that's the puncher's chance you got to take.
And I'm going to just go ahead and say this, and then we can move on. But I don't think that Deb Haaland is rallying a lot of like real momentum either. I think it's really quiet on her side. Now you guys could be right. It could step up real quick and get real loud real fast here. But early voting, you guys, I think is in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
I cannot believe how quiet this race is. Okay, 6 weeks. I can't believe how quiet this race is. I just can't.
And I agree with you. I just don't think she's as strong electorally as I think people think.
Yeah.
Now, she's built a machine, and that machine can kind of create that.
That's more important,
But I just, she doesn't have, she's not Bill Richardson.
No.
She's not,
No.
Well, no, Bill, he was a good political athlete. And that's the thing. Like what you've seen here in most of the candidates, and especially the governors that we've had going back to even, we'll just say in our time here, Gary Johnson was a pretty good political athlete.
Bruce King
was a good political athlete. Susanna was a great political athlete. And Michelle, to her credit, is a good political athlete. She is. But Deb's not. Deb's not in that same class, so she's got to do things differently. It doesn't mean you can't win. It just means that you can't act like, you can't go out and scrap. Like, you have like Michelle loves to scrap. Like that's just what she is. Like you just see her, she'll dive right in. Susanna will scrap with you. Like she'll sit down and let you have it. Right. Richardson was just this kind of different type of figure, but effective. Right. So that they just have to run a different race. They got to do a little more of a race where there's some distance between Haaland and the voters, which you feel that in a race. Now
that's a good point.
You can't mistake it for non-support. I think that's a mistake that people make. They go, there's no support for her, whatever. There is, but it may not be the kind of deep, white-hot support that some of these other political figures get.
Okay, well, we can move on. We have lots of topics to talk about today.
Yeah, but I want to let's get CD2. How do you feel about CD2 right now? Greg Cunningham taking on Gabe Vasquez. I think it's a really close race. What are your thoughts on this?
It's a race we can win. It's one of the, there's only so many targeted congressional races in the country. We can't be on defense everywhere. So it's a great, pickup opportunity. Vasquez is weak. He's stepped in it again just recently. So I think it's a close race, and I think Greg can win that.
And there's the thing about Greg is he's the perfect candidate for this race, right? Because he's such a contrast from Gabe.
Right.
Everything that Gabe isn't, Greg is. A South Valley guy, a law enforcement guy, a guy with really deep conviction, and a guy with good moral clarity against someone who, you still can't help but see the mask on Gabe Vasquez screaming at the cops and everything. It's like, that's our congressman. I think it's a good it's a good contrast between the two.
I agree.
Yeah. So, all right, that's good. Any chance that Teresa Ledger Fernandez loses?
I don't see it.
Okay. And any chance that the legendary Melanie Stansbury loses?
No, I don't see it.
Yeah,
They've rigged those districts pretty well.
I mean, and I hate to say it, but like I hear more and see more on Stansbury than I do on Deb Haaland online and things of that nature. There seems to be more momentum for Stansbury than Deb Haaland, which is absolutely all of it's frightening.
She's a sitting congressperson who's performative.
And a lot of that is a lot of taxpayer money being spent.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I would like to see Stansbury just get crushed.
No, she is a theater kid who gets up there every day and
makes a
acts
fool
like
out of herself.
Yeah.
But okay.
No question about it.
All right, so let's move on, fellas.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
do you want to talk about?
All right, I want to start. So I was not going to start this discussion after the politics with this, but I found this article in the Wall Street Journal fascinating. And so I want to talk about this. The University of Michigan drops first semester grades to curb a mental health crisis. That is from the Wall Street Journal. So I'll explain this and then Christy can read some of the article. And it gets better and better as you read the article. You just go, no way. And so what the University of Michigan is going to do in at least a good portion of their kind of liberal arts majors are, they're not going to give you first semester grades because they don't want them to affect your mental well-being, meaning you're getting a lot of kids that are getting destroyed as they get into the University of Michigan. And there's some other stuff going on too. And so what you'll see here is this kind of goes back to COVID, but let's just start this and see where it leads us.
The University of Michigan will drop grades for first semester freshmen next year in an effort to curb the mental health crisis unfolding among college-age individuals, according to the school. Instead of a letter grade, first semester transcripts will show pass or no credit. The program is designed to help students acclimate to the demands of college and allow intrinsic motivations to guide personally meaningful academic journeys, the school said. It sounds like a Hallmark card. Okay, the program, set to start in the fall of 2027, applies to students in the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, which enrolls about half of Michigan's roughly 8,000 first-year students. The shift at Michigan, among the nation's largest and best-known public universities, comes as schools wrestle with grade inflation and the need for remedial instruction for freshmen ill-prepared for college-level classes.
Okay, hold on. That's a bombshell line, whether you hear it that way or not. There's no doubt. Grade inflation. Okay, first of all, what they mean by that is they're giving out more A's than ever.
Right.
So they've lowered the bar. Okay. And then they're also ill prepared for college level classes.
Okay, let me finish this really fast because this adds to it. University of California math and science professors have urged UC Regents to reinstate entrance exams because so many freshmen were unprepared. A recent University of California San Diego faculty report found that the percentage of students placed in classes to remediate elementary and middle school math before they could take pre-calculus increased to 8.5% in 2025 from 0.5% in 2020.
Okay, think about that.
What happened in that time frame?
I'm pretty sure we had COVID.
And we shut down a bunch of schools.
We did.
Okay.
And so that went up percent. And remember, you're talking middle school and elementary school math. I mean, and then
they're not
it goes
prepared.
up 8%. Okay, keep going.
Okay, in May, Harvard University faculty voted to approve a 20% cap on the number per undergraduate course in an effort to curb grade inflation. It won't apply to A minuses, which committee members predicted would become the most awarded grade. At the University of Michigan, a review by the news site MLive found that 74% of all undergraduate grades in 2022 were an A+, A, or A-. A decade earlier, that percentage was 57. So it's dropped, it's gone up 20 some odd percent.
Basically.
Okay, so here's the thing. All right, let's talk about that because this is a weird tweak too, but I was talking to some APS parents yesterday, and they started school for the public school system here in New Mexico at APS on Friday as a quote-unquote soft launch. So the kids would not be overwhelmed by their first day of school and their classes. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? A soft launch to go to middle school and high school and elementary school? I mean, we had open house. When my kids were at the public school systems, we had something called open house. You went, you met your teacher, you got your book, you shaked hands, it was an hour long, and you left, right? You did a little tour. You figured out how your locker worked. That was an open house. The soft launch, because these kids, can't handle a full day on a Monday because it's too overwhelming and stressful? Like this all ties in together. That this I don't know. I just feel like we're lowering
they're
standards.
They're going to eventually pay the price. They will eventually pay the price. And if they're trying, they haven't been paying it in K through 12, so now they're trying to get it they've been paying it in the school, in the universities, and now so they don't want to pay it. You're going to pay it at some point. Like, you're going to have to.
Well, I would hope that you would pay in school versus getting out in the professional workforce and not being competent.
But you're already
I'm just seeing it here. Look at it's how do you raise the graduation rate here?
You
lower the standards.
You lower the standards.
Yeah.
Why is it that now the state Supreme Court just said, people can't pass the bar in New Mexico, the legal bar, which is the easiest bar in the country.
Yep.
We're not going to let them practice under the supervision.
Yeah.
Well, why is UNM Law School passing people who can't pass the bar?
Yeah.
The easiest bar in the country. And it goes back to this whole thing, and it started under COVID.
Yep.
It's bad. In APS, APS is pretty shocking.
Oh, it's terrible. And then remember, the University of Michigan is one of the best public schools in the country. Like, this is most of our kids couldn't get in there if they just apply right out of high school. It's really tough to get into. And so when you see what they're doing in the fall off in the performance here, I mean, you look at what's happening simultaneously. They're handing out too many as incompetence rises, right? And again, that gets back to what we've watched in New Mexico. And we've said a million times in this state, if you continue to drop the bar lower, and then you have politicians who stand up and say, look what we did, we improved the graduation rates, that serves kids in the worst way possible. And so we're now sending kids into classrooms where they can't handle themselves. And this is happening from the best schools in the country down. This is a top to bottom issue. And at the same time, we're watching all this happen. We're watching people get degrees they can't use and can't get jobs with. They have zero competence in they don't belong in the school they're in many cases. And then when they get out, they've got $200,000 in debt, a degree they can't use, and then they turn and say, we were sold a bill of goods that we can't freaking make a life with. And then what do you do? And all of a sudden, what's appealing to them? Socialism.
We just need to burn the system down.
We just burn it down because look what it did to me.
Okay, and you guys, I have to say, this feels very much like the participation awards that a lot of these kids started to get when they were younger. It feels like, I remember when I went to college, about half of my graduating high school class went to college. That was it. And I had a decent sized graduation class. Others went into the military, went right into active duty service. Others went into trades or went to work for their family business. And those that decided to go to college, really, it was like it wasn't handed to them, right? Either financially or academically. I feel like now the assumption is, oh no, every single person on the planet needs to go to college. And maybe there are some kids that are not either A, prepared to go to college, or B, shouldn't be going to college. They should be taking a different path.
And it's not smart for them in some cases.
Not
even that whether they're intellectually capable of doing it. There are some other jobs out there that
are better.
Can be better.
Oh, so much better. We talked about that in the last show.
Look, if Ella wants to be a plumber, that's the quickest way for her to make a lot of money. Yeah. I'm just saying, it's no joke. Like,
it's true.
There's no doubt. And I think it's changed a little bit, though, from that perspective, Christy, because at one time, I think you're right. It was one of those things where we're like, well, everybody's got to try to go to college or whatever. Well, now, even the kids that probably should go to college aren't ready to go to college. Right? So before, it was what you're talking about. They were prepared. They were ready. Now, some of them maybe shouldn't have gone because they could have gone into trades or whatever else. But now, they're not even ready. Like, they're getting shelled. And you think a kid gets into Michigan, they've got to be like, look out, smart. No, not necessarily.
And so is this just greed on the behalf of the universities that are like, we're going to keep these kids in here, even though they shouldn't be, because we want their income.
No,
we want their tuition.
I think their admission standards are off, clearly. What they value as a student, we've talked about for a long time, is off. Okay, it's not solely based on accomplishment. And now, a lot of these schools now, they don't take the standardized tests.
That's what
anymore.
I was wondering, too.
ACTs are gone. SATs are gone. How do you know how a kid stacks up?
And there is absolute grade inflation in K through 12.
Yeah, that's happening, too. Right. Yeah. You're getting every kid's coming out of high school with a 3.9.
Right.
You're like, okay, well, they can't all have a 3.9, but they do. Right. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, well, they got a 3.9, and we're not gonna standardize test them. Okay. Then they're going to show up and get drilled.
Yeah.
Right. So, anyway, I thought it was a fascinating article. If you get a chance to read it, Wall Street Journal. There we go. Okay. The story that has come out on Trump in Turkey is, I think, something we need to talk about. So I don't know how much you guys know about this. Trump was in Turkey. Was it for the NATO deal last month? He ends up going up onto Air Force One. Els, let's just go ahead and roll the video. He ends up walking on Air Force One. How you doing? This is him as he's leaving Turkey. Okay. Turns out that Trump keeps walking through. And then what ends up happening is there's a truck behind Air Force One. They sneak him off of Air Force One. There's the truck underneath Air Force One. It's like a food truck. They stick him in there and take him to an unmarked military plane and fly him out of Turkey. There goes the truck. Trump's in there. There it goes. This is like some clandestine operation to take the president of the United States away from Air Force One to another plane so he could then get into a situation where he could get out of there. And then you got the press on the president's plane. They're all like, hey, you'll be fine. Like, if I'm a member of the press, I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then they landed in a separate country. And I don't even know which one it was, either Germany or something. And then Trump gets back on Air Force One, and then he lands back in the United States, walks off like nothing happened. Is this a concern to anybody but me? I mean, I seriously look at Trump and think, how many different countries, how many different people are trying to take him out? It's unbelievable to me.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it's great. I mean, I would rather them take that. Okay, they had intel and say, you know what, we're not gonna take this chance. And I know the press is all pissed because they left them on the.
They're like, wait a minute, now
they're
we're
flying
sitting
like
ducks.
2,000 feet around.
Caitlin Collins is like, what the hell's going on? I'm like, well, Caitlin, it was a chance we were willing to take.
That's not what you do for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But I mean, they clearly had some intel. And they acted on it.
No, it is amazing. And so Scott Jennings was talking about this on CNN, and he brought up a more clarified point on just the kind of danger that Trump is in.
Highly unusual, and you know, Caitlin, you cover the White House and the president. You know how the machinations of his travel normally work. But I think it was unusual because it sounds to me like the threat was unusual. I mean, it sounds like this was a very, very serious threat to the president's safety. And when you consider that he's already survived numerous assassination attempts or people at least thinking about assassinating him, and you consider the region that he was in, I'm glad they engaged in all this cloak and dagger and all this deception to keep him safe. I think every time he walks outside of the White House, whether he's traveling domestically or internationally, somewhere in his mind, he must believe, you know, I don't know if I'm coming back here tonight because of what he has lived through. I fear for him and what might happen to him every single day. And, you know, this story raised up the hairs on the back of my neck when you consider how they had to move him around. But I'm glad they did it, and I'm glad they got him back to the United States safely. I'm glad he was at the meeting over there, by the way. It was important for the American president to be there. But you can only imagine, and David knows this, the level of threat and the level of alarm that would have been required to set up this kind of deception must have been extremely heavy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. Because Trump would not have wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So it had to have been they had to have some serious intel.
Yeah, no doubt. You don't want it. Like, you think Trump wants to climb into the back of a truck with some of the small little meals they make, and it's just like old lettuce and some tomatoes.
He would not want to. He would not have wanted to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Okay. Next thing, I want to get your opinion on this, Jay, because I think we haven't talked to you about sort of this DSA, Democratic Socialists of America. Okay, and their impact on the Democratic Party. And one thing we've said on the podcast is this is not a positive. I mean, I get that we may win some seats in the Senate and potentially the House that we wouldn't have ordinarily won because they're nominating horrendous candidates on the Democratic side. But long term, what scares me is if these guys are successful, they are going to win some races. And that's it. I don't think you root for this sort of thing.
I don't. It scares me.
Yeah.
And I will tell you this, like, we think socialism, and Republicans, I think this cycle think we can just run against socialism on them. And I got news for you. Look at polling with like Gen Z voters. They're more favorable to socialism than capitalism.
Yep.
And a lot of voters don't know what it is.
Yep.
You know, and we just talked about K through 12.
Yeah.
You know, what's going on there. And that's why Governor DeSantis, they put that into their curriculum. Required curriculum was to teach about communism and socialism. And so, yeah, it'll help us win some seats. Like we could win the Michigan Senate. Right. Is the obvious example.
Yeah.
But it's dangerous because if those people get a hold of this, what they can do, you're seeing it here.
Yeah. With
some of the stuff and with guaranteed income, and they start going down this road. I think it's bad. It's bad totally right now for the Democrats, but it could be really bad for the country.
And I think the scary part of it is how it's wrapped into anti-Semitism, which they have met each other in this movement, which is terrifying. So Dara Elisa Xavier, who is running for a House seat in New York City, she went to a Hamas supporting, I guess, some sort of gathering on the 8th of October, 2023, the day after October 7th, the day after the slaughter of Jews in Israel by Hamas. She went and supported this. Okay, so then the DSA co-chair. Okay, so her party's co-chair was on a podcast and was asked, "Do you support her going to a pro-Hamas rally the day after the slaughter of Jews in their own country by Hamas?" And here's what she said.
Do you support her yourself in that?
Yeah, I do.
Why?
Because
in other words, you would have gone to that rally had you been able.
That's a good question. I probably would have. Yeah. I don't live in New York City, so I wouldn't have.
One day after the slaughter of 1,200 people and taking of over 200 hostages, you would have come and rallied behind Hamas.
I think that October 7th was largely inevitable. If you put people in an open-air concentration camp and you deprive them of rights, of dignity, of food, of the ability to live in safety, you have to expect that they are going to not take that for that long. And that is not defending any harm of civilians or of non-combatants.
Well, sure.
That is.
Who
Do you
are
think it is?
non-combatants?
You're saying you're supporting it.
I'm saying that I think it was inevitable.
Okay, so here's Joe Scarborough now. Just listen to this reaction. Mr. Democrat.
Wow. The co-chair of the supported going to a pro-Hamas rally the day after Hamas gleefully slaughtered more Jews on October 7th than any day the Jews were slaughtered since the whole.
What's inevitable, in my opinion, is when you teach people that it's the oppressor versus the oppressed. That's the only prism through which you can look at anything, and this is what you get. I mean, that's why it was shocking when October 7th happened and you saw support from those rallies and stuff. And I even think Joe Biden, to the extent he was there, was kind of like taken aback a little bit by it. But it's because people have been indoctrinated. It's the oppressor versus the oppressed. And so when they looked at, Israel must be the oppressor, and you heard her, and they're oppressed, and there's just so little understanding of what's really happening. And it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you guys, I came in on a conversation with Ava and Ella, not to put Ella here on the hot seat, and I just overheard them saying how dangerous Mamdani is in New York City to the youth, because the youth look up to him and think he can do really good things. And that those are the kind of people that are going to be really inspiring. Looking at, and I just saw a post the other day from a younger person that I know on Facebook talking about what's the big deal about El Sayed, the guy up in Michigan.
Yeah.
I mean, he was actually born here where Melania was not. And I'm like, okay, that's not the issue people have with Sayed, by the way.
Yeah.
And I didn't jump in because I didn't want to get into some, argument on Facebook with this kid. But I was like, what is happening? So whatever they're listening to, they think, oh, that's our problem with El Sayed. I'm like, are you nuts? Like, do you know anything about this cat and what he actually supports and stands for, and who he puts in his corner that believes 9/11 was actually Americans' fault and we deserved it? And I just am like, I just feel like there is a real gap between what our younger kids are learning, and that's why this whole Marxist, socialist, communist thing is coming up.
This gets back to the education thing too, the indoctrination 100%. Of these kids, and then I think what we saw unleashed on October 8th, 2023, I never imagined. I never imagined that the rank anti-Semitism that would become part of the regular political discussion in this country, I never imagined we'd be at this spot. I never thought we'd see this. And now it is, you have people like this woman right here, who's becoming a bigger and bigger voice in the Democratic Party, saying basically, I support the slaughter of Jews.
Right.
How do you do that? Like, how does that even happen? And so when you look at all of this, and it's all wrapped together, we're in the fight of our lives here. And if we think it's some political advantage that we should be happy about, I think that's crazy.
It's crazy because you can lose the argument with some of these people,
Yeah.
because they're only getting a piece of the people should go back, read the Osama bin Laden's letter about 9/11, his justifications for it.
Yeah.
And it's basically the platform of so many of these on the far left about what they believe and how America's in the wrong on everything.
And we talked about this 2 shows ago, and I think it's something, I'll get your quick take on this, and then we're going to skip down and we're going to get to your stuff next because we're running out of time. But we had a segment with David, I think it was David Freeberg from the All In podcast, and he said, there's a real problem. And he goes, and it's going to be those grocery stores. He goes, the grocery stores in New York City are going to be a success early on because they're government subsidized. They're going to undercut pricing across the board. They're going to have people go in there, buy food, and go, this is so much cheaper. It's so much better. This is great. It's going to be a massive PR win for socialism. Basically, it's unsustainable. It's a pyramid scheme. It can't work, but it will be successful in convincing people in the near term that socialism is something they should get behind. And in fact, this could gain a lot more momentum than people realize.
Yeah, I mean, look at polling, look at public polling, look at Gallup, look at anything, and look at Gen Z voters and younger voters in their opinion between socialism and capitalism. That's why, and if you ask, like my wife did a ton of focus groups all over the country recently on this issue, and voters, when they're asked about socialism, like they know they don't like it, and if you tell them a little bit about it, they don't like it, but just off the cuff, you don't win that fight. Like I think Republicans think we do because we, of our perspective on things.
Yeah, it's not good enough to just say the word socialism.
Right.
You better have examples that affect people's lives that they can draw back to and say, I can't have that.
Right.
So it can't be a lazy
and that's
battle.
As soon as you do that, you win the fight, but you got to do that.
Yeah.
And that's expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, we're going to do this WNBA thing quickly. We have to.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Jay, former basketball coach of the New Mexico Fire. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes. I'm a legendary team. A legendary team.
2 years without a loss.
2 years without a loss. They call him Coach Mac, so we had to bring him in to ask him about this.
About the WNBA.
Oh, it's just
Jay's
unbelievable.
Like,
We wouldn't be.
I would believe that. So, but that's. I mean, there's some great W players, right? And there are some great women's basketball players. That's all well and good, but the reality is this league steps in it like nothing I've ever seen. So this is unbelievable, and I want to ask you about this because what you have the two most recognizable probably faces in the WNBA right now are obviously Caitlin Clark and probably Sophie Cunningham, even not for the same reason, but they're both on the Indiana Fever, and they're both sort of targets of their own league like I've never seen. Okay, so Dan Dockich, who does opinion stuff for sports and out of Indianapolis, was on Fox News, and he talked about the fact that you have Caitlin Clark and you have Sophie Cunningham, and they literally exist in an ecosystem that hates them, including their own coach. Listen to this.
Well, this is the latest in a lengthy list of Stephanie White not having Sophie Cunningham or Caitlin Clark's back. Frankly, I've never seen anything like it in sports. I coached for 30 years. I've been around it for my entire life, 50 years plus, and I've never seen this. Going back to high school, coaches would defend you. College coaches would defend you. Pros, certainly, coaches would defend you. But again, this is DNA of the Indiana Fever. For whatever reason, Stephanie White will not defend Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. The foul, fine. You want to play basketball, you're going to get hit. Somebody goes maybe cheap shot on you, which that clearly was. Great. But the coach then comes out in support so it doesn't happen again. It's ridiculous. And Stephanie White, I know her. She's a really nice woman. She is an icon in Indiana. But she's pathetic in these instances. It's awful.
So what do you make? First of all, Coach Mack, what do you think of the foul?
I mean it was obviously flagrant too.
Yeah,
which is what they called.
Yeah. Okay, and then
but it's not a one-off. I mean, that's the issue. Like they're getting this is happening all over the place.
And it does seem like it's amazing that their own coach sort of targets them or doesn't support them, and you know it. Like when your coach doesn't support you. I mean, it's very, very clear. And then beyond that, you look at the league itself. The league itself seems to want to take these social stances that put the league in a brutal position and alienate their best players.
Right, and it's upside down with the public when you're trying to grow. You're trying to grow the league.
Yeah.
It's become very leftist.
Yeah.
On things, and you're seeing it now.
Okay, all right. Well, that's that.
And Caitlin Clark she's the reason that league's growing.
Oh, there's no
just
question.
Like Michael Jordan and Magic, and Larry Bird, like those guys. But because it's Caitlin Clark, they're going to make it about race.
Yeah, yeah.
And they don't like it.
It's unreal. Could you imagine if the NBA had been like, we hate Larry Bird?
Yeah,
like
or Magic or Michael
or any or if you had a largely African American league and you had we can't stand that person because they're white, they would never do that.
Yes, no,
never. It's terrible. It's unbelievable. So okay, all right, we're gonna get to your latest endeavor, which is Breaking Body Cams on YouTube. So for anybody who watches this show and subscribes to it, go to Breaking Body Cams on YouTube and join. Jay is the mastermind behind this. Talk about why you're doing it.
Well, we talked about a lot of these cases. We do research on them in your campaign, whether they're catch and release cases or sanctuary city cases, and we'd highlight them in campaigns. when, you know, and we'd highlight them on these shows.
Yeah,
We'd promote them. And it's frustrating because the media will never cover them, no matter what. And so I just decided, you know what? I know some of these cases, I'm going to go request body cams from them and start putting together videos so the public to kind of tell more of the story about a little deeper dive into what really drives crime in New Mexico, how the drugs get here, some of the crimes that you know, the media will tell one story and they're not going to tell the full story because they disagree with what the answer is going to be. And the best,
or it'll be Albuquerque man.
Right. And so what set me off finally was the fact that this girl got kidnapped, 13-year-old girl got kidnapped in Rio Rancho.
Okay.
She was
is that what we're looking at
That's
here?
what we're looking at now. This is the police pulling up. She was able to get away to say she was using the bathroom after a night of absolute terror, what she was subjected to. This Good Samaritan that you're looking at, he signals the police officer who arrived. The guy was hidden. He kind of parked away because he was worried about cameras and thought she was going to come back. So this police officer kind of breaks protocol, but she does a great job and chases him down.
Okay.
And with another officer, they end up pulling him over. They detain him. They rescue her, and it's awful. You know, we cut out, edited quite a bit about what had happened, but it was horror.
Yeah.
And the media covered it here, and they said it was a 34-year-old Albuquerque man.
Yeah.
He said he was an Uber driver, blah, blah. What they leave out is he's from Venezuela.
Okay.
Spoke zero English. Yeah. And that matters. Like, that's part of the story because you start wondering, wait, this is what happens with sanctuary laws. Is there something that we should be looking at? And you wonder why the public will turn on Trump and turn on ICE agents
because they don't see this.
They think they're just chasing people around construction sites. Yeah, and they don't understand, you know, what's going on. Like this guy, if he got deported, they'd say, "Well, this poor Uber driver." Yeah. You know, and that's not. And
God, it's such a toxic. It is such a toxic mix because it'll be Albuquerque Uber driver pulled out of his car, arrested, and sent back to Venezuela.
Right.
That's what you'll get out of it. If you get that part, or you'll get Albuquerque man arrested for kidnapping. And then you'll be like, oh, this Albuquerque guy, man.
This is awful. Which is awful, but there's more to that story. So we've taken some of these cases and we're trying to highlight them, whether they're sanctuary cases or or catch and release type cases, where you're seeing people getting, you know, we have an officer involved shooting where this guy had been released like a dozen times. Yeah. And ends up pulling a gun on an officer in the war zone, and trying to show also like how do the drugs get into?
Yeah, let's do the war zone one. We got that, and we're just going to show some of that video. What happened with this?
So this is let me see which one it is. One?
Yeah,
or human trafficking.
It's our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th link down. It's the human trafficking.
Yeah, so this was interesting, and you see anyone who's gone through the war zone in the last few months, really during the mayoral race, you would see just women like prostitutes out there just naked.
It's awful.
I mean, really bad. And human trafficking becomes really. This story is interesting to me because it was the sheriff's department that was out there, and a sheriff's deputy sees a man drop off 2 prostitutes. Yep. And so he does what I think you'd want law enforcement to do, which is you always hear, don't just go after the women, like go after, or even the Johns, like go after John, but go after the traffickers. Right. So they went after this guy, stop him, and it just shows how complicated this is. Okay. Because this guy, his whole defense was, and it's a funny video in the sense that he's sitting there, his defense was he was a John. I was just trying to buy these. We're all from California. Yeah. So I'm just a John. Right. And so they separated him from the women. They're trying to get the women help. The women saying, we don't know this guy. And the officers tried so hard to get them help. Yep. They arrested the guy. Yeah. They said the women said they didn't know him, but then they asked, like, where do we pick him up at jail? Oh, geez. And then it meant they had to drop the charges against him. And it just shows how challenging some of these the deputies there, they did everything you'd want them to do. They went after and it just shows how complicated that issue is. It's a little deeper dive into like what happens and where
you wonder, how do women stay in that environment? But they're terrified. They're scared to death. They don't know what to do. And then you get them in this situation and they feel like if they don't go back to him, he'll somehow, some way find a way to get back.
Right. And it's obvious. You go down Central and you'll see these women are out in the winter at 8 in the morning in 30-degree weather. Someone's forcing them to be out there. Right. There's someone around. We've also done some with on the drug interdiction, trying to show how much.
So you got one here with 26,000 pills at Montgomery and San Mateo. And that's, I mean, you think about that volume.
And this was a joint op with the feds and in the sheriff's department. And they were able to, this guy like crashed and rammed the car, tried to flee, chased them all over, 2 guys, and they were able to catch him. They had 26,000 pills. Jeez. And you'll see right there, you know, you see how much ended up getting after the bus.
Gosh, yeah.
And so it shows where it gets there. We also we've done a number of them that are showing from, coming from Mexico. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think it comes up from Juarez, and it does. Some of it comes through El Paso, but a ton of it comes out of Mexico into Phoenix and then up into Albuquerque. And we've shown the Navajo County outside of Holbrook in Arizona. This deputy and his dog, the old dog was named Kilo. And Kilo is a freaking champion.
Oh, of course.
Kilo is a champion.
Yeah.
But it's a small sheriff's department, but they bust people. And most of the time they're heading to Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And so this guy, I think we showed, this guy had 100 pounds of in the trunk. Yeah. $3 million load. That was their biggest load. And he's heading east. And this one was interesting because you'll see these stops what these deputies go through. And the heat car, you'll see them, they got their AR-15s out there.
Yep.
Because those vehicles, when they traffic the drugs in, there'll be another vehicle that's following it or tracking it. And it started making passes around there. And this is just I-40 heading east into New Mexico. And so these deputies all of a sudden got ready for a firefight.
Yeah.
Fortunately, that vehicle thought better of it and left.
So I'm sorry, talk about that heat vehicle again. So that's kind of the protective vehicle for the load,
so
right?
Like it's either a scout vehicle that's either watching the person to make sure it's getting there or it's seeing where law enforcement is. And these deputies are very good at what they do. Well, that one deputy, that's all he does is drug interdiction.
Yeah.
With his canine. And so they're aware of it and they see this vehicle and it starts coming back around.
So that's one telltale
and they're
signs.
Like, that's a heat vehicle. Jeez. And they so there's that one. You see them a lot of they end up with a lot of Mexican nationals.
So to answer this for me, because when you see a lot of these videos, one of the things I think that's different about your channel is that you take time to edit this stuff down a lot. Where, you know, you'll look at these videos and there'll be people who will post police, you know, body cam videos, and they'll be an hour and a half long. And you're going, oh my gosh, I ain't go through that. Tell me what the thought process is as you're getting these things ready to put them out. So when people look at them, they're getting the action.
Well, they're getting the action, and we're trying to educate as to why they busted them. So a lot of these, they're very, you know, they'll see like St. Jude stuff or things that cartels use and that tip them off. And so we try to educate where it was coming from, where it ended up, why they were able to locate it. And I just think people need to understand how much drugs and everything else are getting trafficked here because they're not catching all of it. No. And you see what happened. A perfect example is this scandal with the DEA, where under the Biden administration, they let some of those loads go. And you have, which you can argue about that. You know, if it's your family member gets killed, it's terrible, and you can argue whether it's right or wrong. But what's shocking to me is you have politicians in this state kind of saying, "Well, that's why we have the #1 drug overdose problem." And if that is a drop in the bucket. If you see some of these loads that these have, there's one of them pills that they stopped. And how many of those are getting through? You know, and when the guy on Montgomery and San Mateo has 30,000 in his backpack, we have a massive problem, and we're trying to educate people as to what's driving it. Like what's driving these crimes.
Where do you go from here on this stuff? What do you want this thing to become?
Well, we wanted to grow it to where we can educate more people, grow it to show more people. We're offering memberships like $3.99 a month. That just, all this is doing is help pay for our research costs. We already have one lawsuit we're suing Governor Lujan Grisham because they have refused to provide us with even a piece of paper before we filed the lawsuit. And so these things, they try to make it more difficult. And one thing you're seeing in New Mexico is this next session, they're already going to try to make it very difficult to get body cam videos, and because they don't like doing it. And so you think from the left and the right is something that we should be agreeing on. From the right, you want to see what's driving crime and some of this stuff and law enforcement. From the left, you should be sitting there saying, we just had the largest scandal with the DWI Enterprise scandal and APD ever. And now we're going to have less transparency. We're going to make it more difficult to get videos. And the thing I love about the body cam videos is it lets you see exactly what the officers are seeing on the street. It's not filtered through the news media. When you see this girl and we blur her obviously, but you hear her interview. We cut out a lot of it.
Yeah.
I just know it's 100 times worse than what's left there. But when you hear her and you see this guy, you understand more. This is what happens.
It's
and this
human.
is what
It's real.
happens when you have a sanctuary. We have one example on a sanctuary issue. As a domestic violence case, the woman calls, the guy's from Guatemala. She tells the police, he says, if I ever get deported, he's going to kill me. They arrest the guy. They get her the order of protection. Within 1 week, he is back and he assaults her with the R word that we can't say on your show.
Right.
And that's because he was released the very next day.
Right.
And that's a sanctuary issue.
Yep, absolutely.
Happens.
No, and I think, too, this is where getting people, and this is, whether you put yourself in this category or not, you're sort of now part of that independent journalism where this is the sort of thing that changes people's perspectives because it creates a human face to it. It's so easy to be like Albuquerque man arrested, gone. No one even gives it a second thought. But if you actually put a face to that, you show the kidnapping victim, show how dangerous it is to open up a border to vulnerable people and watch what happens. And people hear human trafficking and they just blow it off because they hear it so much. But when you see a face that goes with it and then you put the story together, I think going forward, the stories you're going to be able to tell here are unbelievable. And
the catch and release ones, and for me, it's apolitical. Like we're telling what's there. And frankly, you have the mayor and the governor saying they're against catch and release. We're highlighting those cases.
They should be all over this.
Like when you see that officer, how close he came to being killed when they had to shoot that guy in the war zone, you understand this is what happens when you let someone like that out 12 times.
Well, I think it's going to be interesting, Jay, to see like how much will our state government in some capacity try to shut you down? Just like Nick Shirley, like in California, they're trying to block Nick Shirley from investigating fraud, right? They're putting this bill up before their state legislature to get him to be banned from.
Well, they're absolutely trying
video.
to shut down body cams.
Yeah,
it's
interesting because it's like this lack of transparency, and they don't want that. They really don't want the full story out there, and I think that's why it's really important to.
But wait, I thought we were having body cams so we could catch all those police officers violating rights.
Oh, I know, right? Because the ICE officers, let's make sure that they're wearing the body cam stuff and make sure that they're.
As they agreed, they should.
Yeah,
they should.
So it's going to be interesting to see like how much transparency is the state legislature going to actually allow.
Because what happens is then you're just reliant on the press release from the politicians. Another example here, they had ShotSpotter there bragging about it. It detected these guys were driving around the war zone, fired over a dozen shots. ShotSpotter detected them. It detects gunfire, sends officers to the scene. It worked perfectly. They stopped and they arrested the guy. That was great. They did a press conference. Everyone clapped. What they didn't say is all three of them were from Venezuela.
Yeah.
And spoke zero English, and it makes you wonder, why are guys from Venezuela sitting there with a firearm able to and get arrested and are right back, conditionally discharged, right back out onto the streets? Why would we let them back out on the streets?
It's unreal.
And that's why people don't understand that's who ICE is going after.
Right.
And so they think it leads to this perception that ICE is just a bunch of bad guys.
It makes Keller's approach on this, which allows for exactly what you're talking about. You look at it and go, it's just evil. It's wrong. Don't do that to your people. I mean, it's incumbent upon our leaders to say, forget the politics of this thing. You've got people in this country that are absolutely here to either deal drugs or to human trafficking. And in those cases, it's quite clear what's happening here. And they have to deal with it. Or the West Mesa murder, too.
And exactly. And who's the victim of those most of the time? They're the immigrant community.
That's right.
That's generally the victim.
Yeah.
So talking about, it's not just anti-immigrant. There's a handful of criminal migrants.
Yeah.
And the fact that we give them a free pass, for the most part, you have the cases with the 13-year-old girl from Arizona, but the vast majority of victims to these criminals are within the migrant community.
Right. No, and it's just, again, this is not a political issue. This is a safety issue. And I'll tell you what, if when we do find out the bill number where they try to restrict the amount of police body cam video that gets out, we'll be all over that. Yeah. I mean, we got to.
It's got task force going. Yeah, it's coming.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Jay, thanks, man.
Tell us everybody again where they can find you.
Breaking Body Cams on YouTube. Like the page, subscribe to the page, become a member, help us keep doing what we're doing.
All right, we'll do it.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks very much for joining us. We appreciate it. Christy, seriously, baller. Good job. Way to make it happen.
Zip it, you guys. Thanks for joining us. This is my part, Mark.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Mark, it's hard for Mark. It's really hard. Okay, he's telling me to wrap. Hard wrap. Thanks, you guys, for joining us. Have a great rest of your work week. If you would like to sign up for our emails, go to podcast.com and sign up there. You can also make a donation for our show to keep our lights on. Thanks, you guys. God bless. We'll see you on Sunday.
You've been listening to the No Doubt About It podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon, but in the meantime, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at No Doubt About It Podcast.
No doubt about it.
The No Doubt About It Podcast is a Choose Adventure Media production. See you next time on No Doubt About It.
There is no doubt about it.